Lewis Hamilton was faster than Charles Leclerc in the Barcelona tests, and Lando Norris was the fastest of the three. Let's talk about that now. Hello, friends of Pit Lane Report. Welcome to another video. I'm Giovanni, and we're starting with some news. This is our news video, where we always have several updates. In MotoGP, champion Jorge Martin suffered multiple fractures after a crash during the first day of testing in Sepang, Malaysia. This is a track you all praised in the previous video. He fractured his right hand and left foot, which will force him to return to Europe for surgery and will also cause him to miss the remaining days of testing. We hope he has a complete recovery. It's also being reported that other riders suffered injuries. Raul Fernandez and Fabio Di Gianantonio, both needing surgeries due to fractures. We're rooting for all of them to recover smoothly for this season, and that nothing serious has happened, so they can race without issues. Now, moving on to WEC, we have the news that Aston Martin has officially launched the Valkyrie hypercar to compete in WEC and will also be competing in IMSA. The interesting thing here is that it's a bit different since it's a street car adapted for WEC. It wasn't originally designed for that purpose. They even made a presentation referencing 007. As we know historically, Aston Martin cars have been featured in those films. The Valkyrie was one of the most anticipated cars by fans entering WEC, so let's see if it performs as expected. I think it will be somewhat like Lamborghini and Alpine, where initially it won't be a big deal. Of course, we hope it performs well, but it's in the following seasons that it should really start to compete strongly. It's always tough to go up against those who are already established in the category. Let me know your expectations for the Valkyrie. Now, let's talk about the race schedules. I owe you the schedules for the Grand Prix from the last video. The times will appear on your screen according to what's being reported by motorsport.com. You have the first 3 races of the season taking place in the early morning. Australia at 1 a.m. Eastern Time, China with a sprint at midnight and the race at 4 a.m., and Japan with the race at 2 a.m. After that, we enter a much better period for us here in the US, with the 4th stage being the Grand Prix of Las Vegas, or rather, the Grand Prix of São Paulo. In Brazil, the races will either be in the morning around 8, 9, or 10 a.m., or in the afternoon, making it much more pleasant for us. In Las Vegas, we'll have a race in the early morning at 1 a.m., which, if I'm not mistaken, will be earlier than in previous years. Qatar will be in the afternoon, and Abu Dhabi in the morning. So, there will be 4 races in the early morning for us here in the US. The first sequence will be quite challenging, especially the race in China at 4 a.m., where you'll have to interrupt your sleep. For those of you who are a bit older, the younger crowd can handle staying up all night, but for those of us who are a bit past that, it's not as easy. You can see that the calendar follows a more logical pattern. The races are being held in Oceania and parts of Asia first, then moving to the Middle East. After that, you have the period that still doesn't fit well with Miami and Emilia-Romagna. In other words, you go to the United States, then to Europe, where there are 3 races before returning to North America. After that, you go back to Europe and stay there for a good while until reaching the American part with the United States, Mexico, São Paulo, and Las Vegas, before heading back to the Middle East. I mentioned the Middle East as if it were separate from Asia, but it actually includes parts of Asia and Africa. What I'm trying to say is that the calendar has become a bit more logical in the last 2 years. There are still adjustments needed for Miami and Canada, which feel a bit out of place in this logic, but it has improved significantly. Now let's get to the main news of the video, which is related to the testing we're having and the 2025 season. Through Andre Stella, the team principal, expressed enthusiasm about seeing Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari. However, they're saying they want to make life difficult for the Brit at the Italian team. This is because McLaren has already stated that they want to dominate the category in the coming years. They want to have boring seasons, as they themselves said, where they win every race, similar to what Red Bull did in 2023, winning basically everything in front of them. However, Ferrari with Lewis Hamilton is generating a lot of expectations. When the cars hit the track yesterday, February 4th, we saw McLaren faster than Ferrari. But I have to put an asterisk here. Some people were commenting, "Hey, you're not going to comment on this?" I had already recorded the 2 videos from yesterday by the time the times were released. I need to tell you the following. These are the 2024 cars modified to generate aerodynamic pressure for 2026, using 2026 tires. In other words, the times are completely, how can I say, unrepresentative. Of course, you want to make comparisons, and that's natural, but we don't know the fuel load. We don't know the car configuration. Ferrari, in fact, ran with a significantly lower aerodynamic load. So all of this influences the results. We can't take this as something indicative for 2025 or 2026. That said, I know you're going to want to comment a lot about this. There will be plenty of jokes, etc. Charles Leclerc set a time of 1:16.0 in Barcelona, while Lewis Hamilton set a time of 1:15.9, meaning he was 1 second faster than Charles Leclerc, while Lando Norris set a time of 1:15.2, which was 0.7 seconds ahead of Hamilton. That's a significant difference in lap times. As I said, since it's a completely modified car, a Frankenstein car from 2024 adapted for 2026 with 2026 tires, this doesn't necessarily represent anything for 2025 or 2026. Still, I know that people will want to joke about Hamilton being ahead of Leclerc and Norris being much faster than both of them. Feel free to comment below. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss anything. A big hug, thanks, and see you later.